Hello and welcome Success Grid Nation to this new episode of the Success Grid podcast with your host Hussein Talib. I am always looking for ways to improve the Success Grid podcast and your feedback is a big part of that. So if you have any questions or ideas, please leave me a voice message by going to successgrid.net/podcast. I will be waiting to hear your feedback.
Welcome to Success Grid, the place for sharing entrepreneurial stories, knowledge, and wisdom to educate and inspire you to always strive to raise your standards in your business and your life. With your host, Hussein Talib.
Hello and welcome Success Grid Nation to this new episode of the Success Grid podcast with your host Hussein Talib. My guest today, she is a business optimization expert, teaches how to create explosive profits without adding any cost. Andie, welcome to the grid.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and hopefully provide some service and tips for your listeners.
Awesome to have you here today with me on this episode. Well, give us a little story about you, Andie, because we want to put the people who are hearing us about. Before we go into it more this episode, we want to hear your story. How did you become this business entrepreneur, and what made you transform to this if you had prior jobs or careers before that?
Absolutely. This is the fun part of the conversation, I think, because, a lot of people have dreams of being entrepreneurs, whether by accident or on purpose, but mine actually started when I was 16 years old. I was homeless and because my single mom had abandoned me. And I thought the solution to my situation was to start a business. And, more out of necessity, frankly, but I ended up I loved the adventure, and I'm such a problem solver that it just was such a natural transition for me. And not that it was, it wasn't successful immediately for obvious reasons, but it was something that I ended up just really, really enjoying and loving. And so my journey was actually forced upon me by myself, but also in the situation. So it's just a very unusual story that I like to share with people, because I think a lot of startup companies and small businesses are sometimes afraid, or they're not supported, or they don't think that they can make it. And I feel like, look, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we are speaking here about a very young age. You're about 16, when you were thinking about starting a business. Not many young people think about that. So what made you do that? Did you know someone in the family? Did you see some people around you in the neighborhood? How did it come into light to you?
Well, my not my immediate family, but distant families have all owned businesses. They were all business people or business owners. And so I sort of we never talked about it. There were no lessons or conversations, but it was just what I saw. And I assumed the whole world was like that, at an early age. Like, everybody owns a business, or everybody is in business. I mean, even if whether you're a business owner, for example, doing, consulting, or you own a restaurant, you're still a business owner, right? And so I've always been around it all of my life without actually really calling it. I don't even know if the word entrepreneur, how long that's been around, but I don't ever remember, hearing about it. It was just what you saw, right? Just like I think children learn how to cook with their parents, or learn how to fix cars with their parents, or whatever. I just learned about being in business and treating people respectfully and having really good customer service and caring about your clients and really being an integral part of their growth, which was really, near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, you have a fascinating story. So, for example, a lot of people in that age maybe start what they call a lemonade stand. Is that right?
Yes.
So what was one of the things that you did, basically, just to give us some idea of that?
Early on, it was very painful and sad, and lots of tears in the beginning. But I had no choice. So I was going door to door at different businesses, asking if they needed help anywhere, anything from, filing or copying or answering the phones during lunchtime or, I don't care if it was throwing out the garbage, like I needed to work, right? And I needed to find out, just a lot of it was just sheer determination, right? I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of no's I got. But in that process, and again, out of need, you have to find out, what am I doing wrong? How do I get them to say yes? What can I do differently? And so it was a trial and error, a lot of trial and error.
Yeah,
And it was
exactly.
all office stuff, but this was the beginning of my sales career, right? So it was
Yeah.
not easy. I didn't have somebody say, hey, if you say it this way, they'll be interested. Or if even if you're talking about shaking hands or looking people in the eye, or the tone of your voice or the words that you choose, or how do you handle objections? All of those basic things I just didn't know at the time.
Yeah, this is what good thing about when you're starting. I think maybe you interact with other people earlier in life. You start building up these kind of things because like nowadays, people or anyone who wants to start a business, maybe even online, especially online, I think that they think that in a month that they will be successful, that they will make $1 million. so
Oh, yes.
so
So true.
it could happen, yes, but it needs a lot of things. It needs persistence. It needs some kind of maybe expertise in certain area, especially with a lot of things to do now online. You have to do your content, you have to do your social media, you have to do a lot of things, you have to do your email marketing, a lot of things. What should you focus on? So let me start with that. When someone start a business, do you think whether maybe online or even offline, what is the most important thing that they should look at first?
There's so many really good ideas. And my opinion is that there's a concept called business value, which I think is super, super important, because if you don't know, like, let me back up for a moment. I can tell people I have 5 degrees, I speak 6 languages, I have 35 years of experience, I've helped multi-million-dollar and billion-dollar companies, but none of that makes any difference in the beginning. In the beginning, you have to know the value that you're bringing to people. And that has nothing to do with me personally. It has to do with them, who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, hey, I need to increase, an example is, this is not related to business, but if somebody says, I have a headache, solve it. And I say, well, you should have electrolytes. And they say, well, I don't need electrolytes. I need, ibuprofen or an aspirin. I said, no, you really need electrolytes. It's really going to make a difference. And they keep saying, I don't want electrolytes. So the point being, if you're not being able to communicate a solution of the value that you're going to provide to somebody, there's no way they're going to listen. They don't understand. And as a business owner, your job is not to sell per se. It's really to educate. Because if you educate on your value and how you can help them, it's always a yes. I mean, I shouldn't say always, but the vast majority of the time it's going to be a yes. And so a business value, for example, is not your 30-second pitch, by the way. Business value is, for me, it's how to create explosive profits up to 300% in 1 to 4 months. I mean, that's sort of obvious in the sense of you kind of know what you're going to get. You don't know how you're going to get it. You don't know exactly what that involves, but at least you know the result, right? Yeah. So other people with business value, they'll say, well, I can help customers, get more lead generation opportunities. And while that could be true, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes people want to know, well, what kind of, are you a consultant? Are you a coach? Do you have a course? Is it customized? Is it one-on-one? How long is it going to take? And although, that's why if they don't get it, and that is your responsibility as a business owner, is to educate them on how what you do can serve them. which
Yeah.
I call business value.
I love that because a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs sometimes get the mistake that it's the business is about them when it's never about them.
Never.
It's about yeah, it's about the client, the consumer, or the client. So yeah, this is the big problem because they think I have this, for example, this product and it has like these features, and these features
Yes. Yes.
ultimately does not matter to the buyer unless these will get them the solution or even the resolution that they are looking after.
Absolutely. And even like with, I know we already talked about a really easy, small example, but like with a car, it says, okay, well, if you get a car salesman to say, hey, it has 4-wheel drive. And as let's say I'm a mother of 4 children, I'm like, okay, who cares? Right. And they say, well, okay, but with the 4-wheel drive, you could, go on a great beach adventure. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't want to go to the beach. I don't want a beach adventure. But if you say, hey, in the wintertime, when it snows and there's ice and you need to take your kids to school, this car is going to keep you safe. That is going to speak to me, right? Yeah. And so you still have a feature, but how is it applied to your customer's life?
I love that. Yeah, I actually, speaking of this point you mentioned, I am actually reading now a book called it's a little bit, let's say 50-50 on the business because it involves a lot of business. It's called Copywriting Secrets by someone called Jim Edwards. So I don't know if you know that book or have you read it?
I have not read that book, but I love reading books. I think, I mean, even with business, even with what I do, you can never know everything. And there's really interesting techniques or a different way to explain something that I already knew. Because again, I know my big thing is we're only successful as we're able to explain what we do. And that, again, our job is education. So what different way can I explain what I do to help them understand better?
Yeah, this is what I love because you transform basically when you said earlier a minute ago that you transform, for example, the features into a benefit and how the benefit is going to solve the problem. So
absolutely.
This is basically what they need. So what are the ways to increase revenue without adding cost, basically? How do you do it?
Yeah, so many ways. Sometimes it's as easy as offering your product or service in smaller or bigger quantities, or if you're not selling a product, well, let me talk about the product first. So if you have a product, you can have trial sizes, which are smaller, or you can have bulk sizes, which is bigger, because, while I don't actually have a lot of traditional women, moisturizers and face creams and all of these things that people use, you can't get on an airplane with them. So women really want that to be with them at all times. So offering products at different sizes, bundling products. So if, let's say you have one customer who only buys this 1 or 2 things consistently and they've never tried anything else, maybe either as a bundle for the company, but also maybe for that particular client, is give them a sample of something else so they can try it because they're going to like it. They're going to buy it. Right. Yeah. And then with services, which is what I do, when I send proposals to clients, I always give them options, at least one option, preferably 2. And the reason is because I don't know what their budget's like. And some salespeople, at least traditionally, will actually ask what your budget is. I understand the concept of it, but I don't like that method. Like, I don't want to create a solution that fits what you're willing to spend. I want to create a solution that's going to fit your cost benefit analysis. So for example, if they say, hey, I want to do A, B, and C, send me a proposal. So I'll send them a proposal about what they want. And let's just say, I say, well, what you want is $10,000. But if you want to do a little bit more yourself, or you have the, the capacity, the labor capacity to do some of it, you could save, we'll say, $3,000 if I reduce the scope and reduce the price. This is an option for you to consider. And then also on the other side is to say, hey, it's going to cost you $10,000 to do this, but if you spend 2 more thousand or 5 more thousand, you're going to get 300 times more benefit if we add this to your scope. So then they at least have an option. They know what the money they want to spend. They know the value it's going to create for them. And they know where they can save money or spend more money because maybe they want to spend more money and have more impact on their company. So pricing and sizes are, I think, really crucial. And again, it doesn't cost any money to do that extra little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then another thing is in what I call collaboration. So if you really want to, reach out to a little bit or a lot bigger client base, collaborate and talk with other companies that are complementary to yours. And an oversimplified example is if you do nails, like, fingernail polish, and you're in a beauty salon, you can collaborate with a hairstylist or a makeup artist or a fashion one of those color design peoples. But for me in business consulting, I love to collaborate with other coaches, even because, well, although I'm not a coach, I'm a consultant, but marketing is a complementary industry to mine, as well as attorneys and business brokers who buy and sell businesses, as a middleman, I should say. So there's all these other people that you can really connect with and really build. I mean, I don't like to call it a referral partnership, but really building a relationship where if you're building a relationship with somebody who's like-minded. So for me, that would be somebody wants to make a difference in their client's life, in the sense of if they come to them for advice, they can say, hey, I really like and trust Andie. Give her a call. She'll send you in the right direction, because it's a great, again, free opportunity.
Yeah. So I love that when you mentioned, like, for example, you're giving the clients, for example, 3 options, A, B, and C, because a lot of the clients, sometimes a lot of the customers actually don't know what they actually want until you show them.
Exactly.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Because
and even if you ask them, they're not going to know necessarily.
Yeah. This is why, because sometimes they would think, I have these 3 options, so this one, let's say, fits my budget now, and maybe we'll do this later, or they have the money,
right?
And
exactly.
we will do the, let's say, the platinum package, for example, which costs, for example, 15K. So you have to show them what you can do for them on multiple, let's say, multiple levels of things.
Absolutely. And again, you're giving people choices. And this goes into psychology, which I am not an expert at, but people want to have a choice. If you go to a car dealer and you're like, we only have this car in red, take it or leave it. Like, it doesn't even matter if you like red necessarily. You're like, I want more options.
Exactly. For example, to me, if I want to buy a new car, for example, I don't really care about the color. I just want the type, or let's say the brand. This is what I'm looking for. The color is not something major, but if you are going to the showroom, you want to see different colors.
Exactly.
Your eyes enjoys these colors with the different types of models. Yeah.
And, I don't know if this ever happens to you, but I'll see a car in a color that I never thought of, and it looks much different than another color. I could like blue is my favorite color. So if I see a blue, model in blue, but then I also see it in black, the black could be much more sexier than the blue. And I'm like, I'll take the black.
I mean, black is always good in cars. So.
Well, true. Very true.
So we're speaking until this point, giving options. So what do you see some of the common issues or challenges for these kind of small business owners?
I find there's several, but one of the biggest challenges I think small businesses really have is, who to trust, what they need, what to do next. And they know that there are solutions, but they don't know how to get to them, right? And one of the challenges, which we kind of talked about a little bit, is when people think of increasing their revenue, they often assume that means increasing marketing costs, which is not true. Like that's one piece of several, one piece of a much bigger puzzle. And so going back to the, no cost increasing your profits, you can streamline your operations, you can optimize your IT systems, you can, like we talked about, collaborate with other industries. I mean, there's just so many things. And it really breaks my heart because I've seen small businesses where they spend so much on marketing and thankfully their revenue increases because of it. But it's also, again, not necessary to necessarily increase your marketing costs. I mean, you can make a much bigger impact. And when you have the money where you're more financially stable, then yes, spend all the money you want on marketing. But in the beginning, like the first 1, 2, 3, 4 years, you don't have to do it. There's so many other ways. And that is the reason it's so heartbreaking, is because some people, as you know, the statistic, they go out of business, and they go out of business because they think that they're not smart enough, or they're not, they don't have the business degree, which by the way is not true. You do not need a business degree to do well in business. I will tell you that now. And I have a business degree and it did not help. So anyway, and it's just like, it really is an attack on your self-esteem and your ego and your vision and your goals and your life. And so it's not an easy path. And I only say that because, again, the success of your business doesn't always just have to do with what you know today, because owning a business is a journey. It's not, okay, I have a business, that's the end of it. Your business will grow as you grow as a person, with your skills, with your experience, whether you're doing it, do it yourself stuff, or you hire a consultant, or you do, some kind of growth. You're always going to do great. But knowing which kind of steps you need to do is not easy.
Sometimes business owners get distracted about the activities that they are doing to generate more revenues.
Oh, yes, all the time.
Yeah. So what do you think a business basically should they, for example, let's say there is like 2-3 streams to generate more revenue. Should they focus on all of them, or should they on the 3, for example, or just on one, especially if some of the 3 options, for example, have the most of the revenue
impact
coming in?
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. And I say that because if let's say you're the stay-at-home mom who has the children at home, or you're a single person family, single parent versus double parent, like your time is one of the resources, right? You only have so many hours in a day. And so if you can do 3 and not pull your hair out, as they say, then I say do it. But what you need to be careful of, I think, is, are those 3, let's just say you have 3 opportunities, are those 3 complementary to each other, or are they completely different? And that's where I think people get really, they can make big mistakes, because if, let's say for me, for business consulting, if I was doing business consulting and I was doing courses and I was doing corporate training, that's mostly similar in the sense of the content that I'm delivering, right? But if I was doing business consulting and I was doing e-commerce and I was doing, hair and makeup, let's say, right? Just to throw something out there, like that's not going to be easy to do, no matter how good you are. And so the more complementary your sales channels are, the much easier and streamlined it's going to be for the hours in your day, for your marketing messages, for you don't want to be somebody who feels like you have multiple lives, because that's when you get really crazy. But really just be consistent and cohesive and complementary in the channels that you use.
I would say we are eventually humans. We only have 2 hands. We are not like an octopus has,
exactly.
I don't know, 8, I think, maybe, or more than that.
I know some people who are just all over the place, and it's so fun. Like it's fun to see them, but they never really get to the next level because they're just so spread thin. So it can be a dangerous place.
So speaking of next level, what next level to you when you're providing to your clients means to you?
For me, I really think that the next level just means that next really big revenue step. So, if you're a really small business and your revenue is $100,000, that's like the I'm barely making it stage, right? So what the stage above barely making it is not barely making it, but being comfortable. And that depends on the person and their financial situation and their financial needs in their personal life. But oftentimes that goes from 100,000 to 200 or 250,000. Like for that would be in my experience, that's their next level. But if you're a company that's making $1 million, well, we need to get you to the $5 million. And that's very different. And the other thing kind of related to that, which I think almost 100% of anybody I've ever worked with don't realize this, is that every time you go to another growth level, your business operations have to change because your business is different. That means hiring more people or delegating more work or having a different operational system or accounting method or capturing data in your company, or like there's things in your company from an operational standpoint that have to change. But they don't have to be big changes. You just have to know that it will change. So the way that you run your business today cannot be the same way you're going to run it when it doubles in size, because you will not make it.
Yeah, there should be different approaches to that. Exactly. And I think that the more the company grows, maybe sometimes what the expenses increase more. So sometimes it increases to the point where they are not even tracking that and not looking at that.
Yes, so true, so true. And that's one of the things that a lot of people also don't recognize until it's almost too late, is they might be growing really well, like their revenue is growing really well. But when they look, they'll find that the faster your revenue grows, the less profits you make. And is such a trap, because what happens is while your revenue is increasing, you're at a fast pace, you're trying to keep up with that revenue, right? Keep up in the sense of, okay, we need to fulfill orders, or we need to finish projects, or we need to, really just deliver what it is that your sales is generating, right? And the reason that the cost increase is because you're, potentially using contractors, which is 50 to 100% higher than your employee rate, or you're having expedited shipping costs, or you're, doing all of these things just to fulfill your sales. And in that process, you're building, those are temporary solutions, right? But in that process, you're also building a permanent infrastructure to support the revenue. But here's the trick, is that as you're spending more costs, your revenue starts to decline also, because the quality of work goes down. You're not you don't deliver as fast as you would normally. You have customer service issues. Like all these other issues happen when your revenue grows fast. And then when that happens, people feel like they cannot, like, I shouldn't grow that much, right? And that's horrible.
Yeah, actually, I watched a YouTube video. I forget what's the name of it, but this is one of the reasons that you mentioned now, is one of the reasons a lot of businesses don't grow, because they are afraid if they are, it's basically fear, because they are afraid if they grow more, they won't be able to handle the pressure of customers or whatever it is there.
Yes. And not only that, they have this incorrect belief that if my company doubles, I have to work twice as much, which is, again, not true, right? But they don't know that because, they don't have a consultant, or they don't have enough time to do research, or they don't have enough time to read books or look at articles, or all the things that, help us grow in our skills and our experience. And it's sad, because they can do so much more if they wanted. Like, it's not necessary, right? I get that. But if you do want to grow, you can. You just have to have the right pieces in place.
Exactly. So do you recommend having SOPs? Is that
Oh my gosh. The bigger
Yeah.
the company, the more SOPs you must have. In fact, that's one of the things I have a checklist that I send out to people. And I said, if you're ready to grow the next level, you have to have these things in place. And one of them is SOPs. And the reason is because, first of all, it makes the process consistent, but also what it does on a much bigger scale is we can find out where to optimize your operations.
Yeah.
How many people does it go through? What systems does it go through? How long do you talk to people? What, does it go back to Jenny 4 times and then legal twice? And like the whole process, not only from a standard operating procedure standpoint, but from a workflow standpoint, I can, map that out and say, we can cut out this, and this. And now we've just increased either increase your productivity and or you're able to have more sales because you have the infrastructure to support it.
Exactly. And automation especially dealing with a lot of, for example, email marketing,
Oh,
a lot
yes.
of things, automation is making it a lot easier.
Yes, definitely. And there's a new company that I just talked with a couple of weeks ago where they said, and I don't know how accurate this is, but I'm pretty excited, is they have an AI chatbot that's 99% accurate with questions. And if that's true,
Wow.
not only to customers, but internal operations as well, like, hey, where's the employee manual or whatever to that effect. And if that's true, oh my goodness, what a difference maker that's going to be with businesses.
I know that, but I don't know about that. But sometimes, like when I do go, if I wanted support and something, they have that, but still it's not accurate. Eventually,
Right.
I'm looking for the email to email them directly. So.
Yes. No, it's so true. I've had this exact same experience, which is why, I probably get accurate answers maybe 50% of the time. But if this company really does what they say, it's going to really make a difference in, productivity and labor and profits across the board. So I'm interested to see how well they do.
Great. So actually, speaking of this a little bit, speaking of support, I saw a website called Video Ask, if you know Video Ask. And this is like, you can put a video of yourself instead of a chat bot. So it becomes, if you have a video, you talk through it, what do you do or what your company do, or you can get clients to go to certain page, or here is our startup page. So I think I'm going to try it on my own site and see the engagement, because when you have your own video on the homepage, I think it's better, and people can reply whether with audio or video also, and with text. So I think it could be a good solution, maybe for websites to interact with their visitors online.
Yeah, I'm excited. I always like looking at new resources because you're always going to find a gold nugget somewhere along the way of running a business. And when they work, it really transforms your business.
Yeah, exactly. So Andie, what would you think, the takeaway for this episode be?
Oh, the takeaway, this is my favorite thing to tell people is your business will not grow unless you're growing. And I know we talked about that before, but I think it's really important. And I'm not saying that because I'm a consultant. I'm saying that because you can learn on your own. You can read books, you can listen to podcasts, you can do courses, you can, of course, hire a consultant, but you don't have to hire a consultant. But when you're at some point, if you're growing fast enough, I think a consultant is a really good option, but it's not always the first option.
Yeah. Where can people get in touch with you?
The best way is to go to my website, because it's where it tells a little bit about me as well as all the things that I offer. And that's andiemonet.com. And you can schedule strategy sessions, look at the books I've written. So yeah, that's always the best place to start. But you can email me directly. I'm in social media. I love sending out motivational posts, tips. I do some lives. I love to do open Q&A for answering business questions or business challenges that come up.
Andie, thank you for being here today, and awesome to have you on the show.
Absolutely. I hope it does well. I'd love to give support and service to people who really need it. So good luck.
thank you for listening to this episode of Success Grid. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you found value in the show, rate and leave a review on iTunes. For more resources, visit successgrid.net. Until next time.